We're back. With episode number 2 of my ultimate setup. If you haven't seen episode number 1, go back and check that out. This episode is about the large 50-inch 4K display above them. Well, now a lot of people have been asking me, Lou, why would you need a big giant TV over top of your setup? And there's a problem with that question. The term need. I don't need any of this, okay? We're obviously pushing the limits. As mentioned in that last video, this is all about just creating a really cool space to sit down in, where you sort of want to be and you're inspired to be. Anyway, yes, completely overkill, I know that. This display up here has a couple of different functions. If we are looking at an edit, we want to see it in full resolution up on a big display. When you're dealing with such a big display and you stand incredibly close to it, every little speck of dust on the white table and the white environment that I shoot in becomes visible. So picking up those little specks and imperfections can be difficult on a smaller display where it isn't on this one. I haven't told you what display this actually is. It's a Vizio P series 4K 50-inch. Probably the most affordable 4K that you can get when it comes to still maintaining good picture quality. It has local dimming, so it's not edge lit. It even has an HDMI port capable of 60 Hertz or 60 FPS. Now this display can still handle 1080p content just fine. It'll even upscale it and it actually looks pretty damn good. The input lag on this TV is amazing too for gaming. If you just want to hook up a console or something like that, it's one of the best 4K panels on the market. Now, another cool thing about this display in this setup is how thin the bezel is. It really fits in well with these other ultra wides. It almost looks like a brother or a sibling or a cousin. So this is what the remote looks like. You have a dedicated Amazon button, Netflix button, as well as iHeartRadio, and then this Vizio button for accessing your various smart applications. It is a smart TV after all. And the coolest thing actually happens on this side of the controller. As you'll notice here, you have a full QWERTY keyboard. So skipping through the various applications that are pre-installed, you can see you have Yahoo News, Finance, your own multimedia if you want to access that. So even with all those smart functions, I do like to keep an Apple TV connected to the display as well. That's just because I like to use AirPlay for various functions. For example, I subscribe to NBA Game Time for watching all my basketball games that I want to see. And in this particular case, over AirPlay, you get a much better looking feed than you would if you just logged onto the website and watched it that way. Now, one of the big questions with 4K televisions is how do you actually get 4K onto them? Well, in my particular case, it's kind of been easy because I've hooked this up to my setup and Mac Pro, which means I can watch YouTube in 4K. I can watch my own videos in 4K if I want to. Now, I've got a lot of questions about these speakers. The reason that they have this shape is because they're mounted so close to the wall, or at least in many different installations, they end up close to a wall. And one of the problems with that, with a square speaker, rectangular speaker, is that this also happens to be a point of reflection for the bass port, for example, on the back. Having a round design means that the sound has a greater ability to move around the cabinet. These look a lot like the very expensive Genelec studio monitors, and they are based on that idea, but they're from a different company called Sanao. The sound is incredible for the size. This is a tiny little cabinet, but it's actually made out of metal. This is metal, guys. This is not plastic. You can build up an enormous amount of pressure inside of a smaller cabinet so that you can get a lot more power out of them. These are also completely configurable and tunable on the back. So once again, depending on your placement and the way that your room is shaped, you can tinker with them to make sure that you're getting an actual accurate frequency response. You're gonna wanna use balanced cables with them, but that's the case with any studio style monitor where you're using 1/4 inch or XLR plugs. Also, when you're working with studio monitors, you're gonna have independent volume controls on each of the 2 monitors. So you're gonna wanna make sure that those are matched up. All right, so let's go ahead and do a little sample of how they sound. Obviously, you're gonna be hearing this through my microphone, so it's not gonna be a full representation, but you may be able to sort of catch an idea about the low end capabilities of these. So as you guys can tell, lots of low end there, even with these tiny little cabinets, and there's no subwoofer hidden anywhere. So I've been blown away at the capabilities of these things. All right, so that wraps up this episode, this installment in my Ultimate Setup series. As you can tell, there's a lot to go over. In the first one, we covered these ultra wide monitors. In this one, we covered this cool Vizio P-Series 4K display that's hooked up to the setup. And we also covered these Sanal metal enclosed studio monitors. And coming up in the final installment, we'll be talking about the smaller components. We'll be talking about my keyboard, my mouse, my dock. And if you come over here, I'll give you a sneak peek at some of the other components that live at the back here. We'll talk more about the computer that I'm using, some of the drives that I use for backup, just all the accessories that make this thing work, and also some of my plans for some of these other devices, like this Zoom recorder over here. So anyways, hope you guys are enjoying this series. If you are, make sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll catch you on the next episode. I'm gonna turn this song back on now.